I am Pinstar, and this is Stellaris. So, yeah, Stellaris. Yeah, made by our friends at Paradox. Stellaris is a 4X grand strategy game that is coming out on May the 9th. But my friends at Paradox gave me an early press build, so here I am to bring it to you. Now, this is one of two videos that I'm releasing right as soon as my press embargo expires here. This video is purely about the Create a Race thing, a full grand tour of it, showing you all the options, all the modifiers, all the points, all the traits, all the ethics, all the portraits, so that you guys who are chomping at the bit trying to pre-plan your races to figure out what you want to play as soon as you get your hands on the game can, well, do just that. If you want to get right into the action of my Let's Play here, go ahead and check out that card that just appeared at the top there. That contains a link to my first proper video where I dive in as the Raccoon Empire. But let us explore how I created such an empire. So, we are going to go ahead and hit the Create New Empire here. And like I said, this is just going to be all the options menu, and I'm going to go through each and every option here for you. So, pencils ready. Alright, so what you do start out here is it just lumps all the things you can customize into a number of different categories here. So let's start at the top. Appearance. So, what does your race look like? Now, as far as the different racial types here, obviously it contains different collections of portraits here. The one thing I have looked at, the one thing I've seen, or rather haven't seen, was they were toying with the notion of, like, say, mammalian race gets a small diplomatic bonus with other mammalian races just because they're fellow mammals. I actually haven't seen that in the game, so I don't know if they took that out. Or if that's appearing somewhere else in some other regards. But no matter, your choice of appearance is just that. It's appearance. It is purely aesthetic. So let's take a grand tour here. So obviously we have the humans, the boring humans. Got these little monkey guys. We got these little guys here. The closest thing to a donkey horse, I think. We got Kitty Man. Mole Man? It's the mole people. That looks like a pretty good boar right there. Koala with horns? This is the portrait we are going to be using for the raccoons, because that's the closest thing we have to, well, a raccoon. But let me show you the rest of them here. Got the fox ones. Got a ramish one. Not sure what's going on here. It looks like it wants to be a Skulltula, but it's not. Sort of a mutant bat slash bloodhound mixture here. Another mixture of a bat. Another take on the bat. They like their bat mixtures here with like a little mouse type thing here. This guy's got feathers. Like a flying monkey type of thing, like Wizard of Oz style. And of course the duck-billed platypus, which was unlocked through a mini game that was run by Paradox last month. So yeah, duck-billed platypus. And then this thing, a porcupine dinosaur mammal thing. Right then, reptilians. Oh hi. He just looks so happy. I guess I should say she. They are males. I don't think they look terribly different than the females for most of the aliens anyway. Got a little sort of hammerhead action going here. A little, well, not a gecko. What is it? Chameleon type there. Not too sure about you. You also looking like getting the hammerhead. I like their head decorations here. Got you, Mr. Batwing guy. Oh, hi, Mr. Einstein here. And yeah, the chuckling dinosaur thing. Got you. You look like Slippy about to be hit by a train. And we got the Geico Gecko here. And sort of like a proto thing here. We got sort of a snapping turtle style guy here. And lastly, the little beaky, snappy guy that the Blorg took over in the original stream here. Right, avians. Lots of interest in birds here. I'll speed things up here a little bit, just so you guys can take a look-see at what we got here. Got sort of a penguin-y one, a little cockatiel thing. I don't even know what that's supposed to be like. Well, these are all supposed to be aliens, but they're supposed to have some semblance of conforming. The Unichicken! That is my official name for that. If I ever make a race with that portrait, they're going to be the Unichickens. Space Parrot, complete with space helmet. I love it. A little budgie there, and pterodactyl. Right, arthropoids. Got Mr. Happy over here. Mr. Buggy here. Now we're starting to get in some like really non-humanoid looking ones. It looks like that's his butt. I'll be honest. Giant butt tick. Got the little dragonfly dude. You look like a creation out of Spore. I wonder if that's how they came up with some of these portraits. Is they fired up the Spore creature creator and just went to town. Whoa, you look like you're from the Burning Legion. Cockroach, of course. Oh, you look sad. Poor alien bug. Alright, molluscoids. These be the sea creatures here. AKA Eldritch Horror type creatures here. Tentacles aplenty. Got a little jellyfish thing. They look like the Hanar. Little sea slug thing. Little mind flayer looking dude. Also looks like a mind flayer. You look happy, don't you? Gah. You look hungry. And interesting, like... Alright, I've never come up against an AI with that one. And of course our friends, the fungi. All sorts of shapes and sizes. Floating fungus, growy fungus. Actually charismatic looking fungus. Mushroom fungus, boil fungus, melting face fungus. Giant red cap mushroom. A little factoid about this. This specific fungus was requested to be included in the game by the CEO of Paradox, despite not actually being part of the dev team, just because he liked the look of these mushrooms. So they threw it in there. And of course, we can't forget the Blorg. These are the Blorg. Yes. Yep. And whoa. Big dude there. This guy I seem to run into all the time. And you look like a poor mammal that's been taken over by fungus. That's really cool. Yeah, you look like you were right from the mammalian tree, but the fungus got to you. Alright, so, as we were going before, this is our dude. Now, the other thing that we need to choose here is our home world preference. Now, here's an interesting thing. It is partially cosmetic, but partially not. It actually has very important and significant gameplay ramifications. That said, there is no superior or inferior choice, nor is there a way to know what the universe is going to look like prior to choosing this as to what worlds are going to be more populous. Now, as far as I can tell, the game is pretty even about its distribution of the worlds. Now, the way this works here is whatever world you choose here, we've got continental, which is basically Earth, ocean, Arctic, tundra, arid, desert, and tropical. Whichever one you choose as your race's homeworld, that's their homeworld, and that is their most preferred type. If they find other worlds of that type, they already know how to colonize them. They're going to be happy there. They're going to prosper there. It's going to be good times. Now, if you've ever played Magic the Gathering and you think of the little color wheel, the two colors next to a given color are its allies, and the two colors opposing it are its enemies. In this case, it works fairly similarly. So, say the raccoon here, we're going to make him tundra. Now, the arid world and the Arctic world, which are our next door neighbors here, are of a decent quality to the raccoons. They can handle themselves on these world types. It's not their first choice. They would much rather be on a tundra world, but if you come across a really good world that's one of these two types, they won't complain too loudly. Now, if you go one further, desert worlds and ocean worlds, they are going to complain loudly. They can technically survive on these worlds, but they're not going to be happy about it at all. So unless you get a ton of tech, populating these two-away worlds are not going to be good. And then lastly, the two worlds that are diametrically opposed to your homeworld are completely intolerable. Your species wants absolutely nothing to do with these worlds. So my tundra worlds, we ain't touching tropical and continental worlds with this species. If we integrate another species into our empire that happens to like these climates, then maybe, but the raccoons want nothing to do with them. So that's how it works. And like I said, it's cosmetic, but it has really good gameplay implications. So I'm just doing tundra because I picture these guys as kind of plump, furried type of guys that don't mind the cold at all. Of course, you can name your homeworld, your star name here. There on, and fickle wood. Oh, the other thing, starting star system here. I've never seen the Deneb one, Commonwealth of Man. I'm not too sure about the Commonwealth of Man, but the Sol system will guarantee that you start in Sol on essentially Earth. The other celestial bodies in your system will exactly be those of Sol. But I usually just take random. There's no gameplay advantage to choosing the others. It's just more for flavor. Right then. So our name, we have to name our race, of course. The raccoon. And again, this is singular. It gives you a chance to do a plural. Raccoons. Now the adjective is basically like, think of France. If somebody is from France, that's the name of the country. But if you are describing something that is originates from the country, it's French. So French would be the adjective, France would be the proper name. So if you're referring to something that is of raccoon nature or origin, then that would be the adjective. In this case, I'm going to call it raccoony. All right then. Next, you can choose your automatic naming lists here. These are basically whenever the game generates either a new leader, finds a new planet, creates a new ship, or creates a new fleet, it will generate pre-populated names. Now, all of these you can change, absolutely. It does none of these choices prevent that. But if you don't want to manually name everything, these are going to be kind of these flavors of the things, like rapacious hatchling, joyous hatchling for ship names. Are going to be the type of thing. Whereas an arthropoid is going to be and other sorts of things. So you can sort of pick the name themes that way. For us, I think we go with, Mammalian 4, because it's got all these apostrophes in the names, so that kind of fits with the name of the species. Now here, the traits. This is the first really heavy-duty, strategic, it's kind of funny, it ran into the text bug here, but that's okay. It fixes itself once you mouse over something here. So basically, you get 2 trait points to pick with for free, and there are 4 trait picks that you can have in total if you want. So basically, there are 2 types of traits here. There are positives and negatives. The positive traits give you some sort of bonus, but cost you trait points. The negatives give you some kind of penalty, but give you additional trait points. But positive or negative, you can only pick 4 total traits maximum. You can choose fewer than that, and you have to end with neutral trait points. So let's go through them. Agrarian costs 2 points, gives you plus 15% food. Thrifty, I'll just mouse over them, gives you cost 2 points, 15% energy credits. Industrious, 2 points, 15% minerals. Sensing a theme here. Intelligent, 2 points, 10% to all 3 flavors of your research, which is awesome. Then you have natural engineers, natural physicists, and natural sociologists, which buffs one of the 3 specific scientific disciplines by 15% without buffing any of the others, but it only costs you 1 point. So if you want to specialize in one of the types of sciences, you might want to go with this over intelligent. Let's see, extremely adaptive, habitability. Yeah, this is the most expensive trait in the game at 5 points. In order to afford this, you have to take this and 3 other negatives in order to come out with the right number of points. Meaning you can't have any other positive traits with this one on the board. Habitability plus 20%, and adaptive is the same thing, but only 10%, but only costs you 2. Basically, when I was talking about the planet wheel before, the habitability is the score that you get when you land on a particular world or colonize a particular world, and basically how well the people do there. And the higher the habitability, the better. These adaptive ones make all of your habitability scores higher than they would normally given the planet type. So very, very useful. And actually, this comes to our first trait that I'm choosing for the raccoons. Adaptive, just vanilla adaptive. I'm not going crazy with that. Right then, rapid breeders. 1 point gives you minus 10% growth time, so you get a population faster. And then into our first penalty, slow breeders takes your population 15% longer to make babies. But gives you an extra point that you can use to spend on other perks. Now we have talented. Your leader skill levels start at a +1. Your leaders are skilled. Everyone starts at level 1. The maximum skill is level 5. So this would start all of your leaders off right off the bat. No matter, as soon as you hire them, boom, they're level 2. And that's actually going to be the other perk I picked for the raccoons. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that one. Quick learners increases the rate that your leaders gain experience by 25%. Slow learners, same thing, but opposite. And actually, this is one of the perks one of the penalties I take to offset. Because see, now that I've taken 4 points worth of traits, I'm at -2 trait points. So my next remaining 2 picks need to be negatives. Slow learners is one of them. Then we have another sort of variation on the very adaptive and adaptive. We have very strong and strong. Very strong giving you 40% higher army damage and 10% minerals. Strong, 20% army damage, 5% minerals. Very strong being 4, strong being 1. And then you have weak, which is just plain army damage -20. And that's the other perk that we pick for the raccoons. We got nomadic here. Makes your populations, it takes them less time to migrate, and it costs less if you forcibly resettle them. And then sedentary, same idea, but opposite. For instead of bonuses, those are the penalties. And that's at -1. Communal, just a blanket global plus 5% happiness for 1 point. Solitary, same difference, minus 5% happiness to give you a point. Charismatic, other species happiness plus 1. Also, one thing to note, and I really wish they put this in the tooltip for this, charismatic gives you diplomatic bonuses. I think it's like 10 or 20 points of diplomatic bonuses. I mean, it's not going to turn someone who would normally hate your guts into a loving friend by itself, but it makes people a little bit more well-disposed to you when you encounter them. So charismatic is more than just the other species happiness bonus that it lists here. And repugnant's the same thing. It gives you diplomatic penalties just for being repugnant, in addition to the listed one there. And then conformists, ethics divergence, minus 20%. This makes your empire's or your people's ethics drift less. And then we got another flavor of the very and the very. We got venerable, which adds 120 years to your average leader's lifespan. That's really freaking long. Like, that's really, really, really significant. It would be almost impossible for a leader not to achieve level 5 skill and stay at that and give their benefit to the Empire for quite a while before they pass away, with Venerable here. Enduring, only 30 years, but it also only costs 1 point. Now, Decadent. This one's an interesting one because there's no diametric opposition. Minus 10% resource output without slaves. So basically, your people slack off unless they have slaves to help them out. Now, all you need on a planet is 1 unit of slaves, but just getting 1 unit of slaves opens up a whole can of worm as to whether or not your empire is willing to tolerate slavery, the diplomatic repercussions of tolerating slavery and actively doing slavery. Also, it's worth noting that you can, if you wish to, enslave your own race. So don't think that the decadent trait means that your people are going to be miserable and slow to output until you find an alien race to enslave. That being said, you can indeed enslave alien races. Unless we have resilient here, plus 100% garrison health and fortification defense bonus. Basically, it makes your planets really freaking hard to take defensively. Unless they bomb it to heck, and even then, it's still going to probably take your enemies quite a bit of army power to take over your planets. So that, my friends, is all the traits. All right, on to our ruler. We can choose the gender. As we can see, the portrait is the same, at least for the raccoon. I think the only portrait that's different is the human, as to male or female. And yeah, a lot of these sliders don't do things depending on the species. Yeah, so here we have clothing types, and of course generate a name. There is one very important part, and you don't get to pick this. Leaders have a couple of traits to their name, and what these traits are have very significant impacts on your empire. Unfortunately, your leaders' traits, their personal traits, you can't pick them. They are randomly generated at the start of the game. Don't confuse that with these traits. These are species-wide traits. Your ruler has a pair of traits that are unique to them, and they'll apply it as long as they're in power. All right, so we already chose our homeworld's name and class, so we can skip past that. City appearance is just that, appearance. It really doesn't matter which ones you pick. It's just for look-sees. All right, now, government and ethics, the next most important strategic choice that you make for your empire. And I'm going to go through all of these for you so you can see the bonuses and penalties. Basically, the way ethics work is you have 3 points. Each time, and you have to choose basically any one of these ethics. Now, you can't, each of these are arranged in a way that they are, ethics oppose each other. So individualist is opposed to collectivist. So you can't be both individualist and collectivist. They cancel each other out. But that being said, without it spending any points, your race is considered neutral on all ethics, but you have to spend your points here. And you really should, because all of these come with lots of bonuses and penalties. So let's review. The Fanatic Xenophile gives you Xenophobia -20. It also gives you some diplomatic bonuses from what I've seen, similar to Charismatic. It also lets your aliens, your people get along with aliens on the same planet without complaining too much. And then Xenophile is the same thing, but just half strength. Also, it's worth noting, in order to go to a fanatic level of something, you need to spend 2 points. One to take the initial level, and then a second point to get you the fanatic level. So a given empire can only be a fanatic in one thing. It's physically impossible to be a fanatic in more than one thing, just because of your point limitations. And on that note, you can also take just level 1 of each of 3 different ones if you want. That's also an option. All right, Collectivist gives you 50% slavery tolerance and -5% food consumption, and Fanatic is the same thing but doubled. You're going to notice a pattern here. The Fanatic is basically always the same thing but doubled. There's one interesting thing to note about the Fanatic levels, though, that they don't advertise here. There are certain edicts that are unique to fanatics of a given type that aren't available to you unless you are a fanatic. So it's just worth noting that that's something you can be doing. So here we've got Spiritualist, Happiness +5, and Fanatic, Happiness +10. All right, now Militarist, this one's a little bit loaded here. So making alliances is more expensive in terms of influence. That makes it harder to buddy up with other people and essentially team up and gang up on other people. But you get more influence from declaring rivals, which tends to piss people off at you. Your armies do more damage, and your war happiness is +5, so your people are more willing to engage in long, drawn-out wars. And then Fanatic, same thing, just doubled. Then we have Xenophobe. They get unhappy when they're mixed with other aliens, unless they're slaves. If you have other aliens and they enslave them, they're perfectly fine with that. There's also a diplomatic penalty to that. I know what you're saying. You might be saying, Pinstar, Xenophobe kind of seems kind of penalty heavy. I have yet to see, I guarantee you there's some kind of hidden upside to xenophobia that I just haven't found yet. But these are what they say on the carton here. Now we have Individualist, energy credits 10%, slavery tolerance -50%, and ethics divergence +5%. And that's in red. That's bad, because that makes your people be of different ethics than your government, which can cause problems depending on where their ethics wander. And same goes for Fanatic Individualist. And then we have Materialists, +5 to all the researches, and then +10. So they are the smarty pantses. Pacifist, another complex one. Maximum embassies +1. That's important for making friends. You start the game with a limit of 3 embassies. And as far as I know, I mean, maybe there might be text deeper in the tech tree than I've gone so far that lets you get more, but otherwise you're limited to 3. So you only have 3 active at once. Now, embassies are really, really powerful at fostering very positive relations with your other empires. So having more embassies to their name allows the pacifist to make friends more easily and make more friends, and who will hopefully be allies and watch their backs against, say, the militarists. Rivalry influence gains. Just like the opposite of the militarist, by declaring people your rival, you gain more influence. Pacifists, not so much. They're not really encouraged to declare rivals as much, because they won't get as much out of the deal. Army damage -10%, war happiness -10%, but food +10%, that's big. that helps directly with population growth. So while you are at peace, your people live long and prosper and multiply. And then same idea, fanatic pacifist, double everything. Now, for the raccoons, I have decided to go with fanatic individualists and materialists. I figure you take guys that want to do their own thing, but also like to go after the shinies being materialists. So this is what I am going with for the raccoons. Now let's look at the different government types. Now you'll notice that I only have 2 government choices that are available for me. Why? Because of my ethics. Which government types are available to you are directly impacted by your ethics. So, for example, and certain ethics types enable certain types of governments. I'll explain. So the most powerful and the most far-reaching ones are your individualists versus collectivists. Individualists don't like being ruled by, consolidated bodies of power. So by taking just the regular individualist, you are locking off this entire column, which are all the single ruler types. This column is all like rule by council, and this column is all rule by a democracy of different flavors. And obviously the individualists like their democracy. So by going fanatic individualists, we cut off both the single ruler and the council ruler flavors. So the only type of government that a fanatic individualist society will get in line with is a flavor of democracy. Now, there are also different things. First off, this bottom 3 is always available to you. All 3 of these, aside from being cut off from, individualists. Also, on that note, the collectivist is exactly the opposite. Collectivists don't want to do the democratic options, but would rather be ruled by a council or a single leader, and fanatic collectivists only want to be ruled by single leaders. But anyway, this row is always available to you in some regards. So depending on your choices, you will always have at least one valid government choice to choose from. This row right here is unlocked by the pacifist. So by choosing a pacifist line, you get an access to this line, again modified by individual and collectivist. Also, as a note, if you're neither individualist or collectivist at all, you get all 3 rows available to you, and you can choose whatever you want. This row right here is tied to the materialist line here. This row right up here is tied to the spiritual line. And lastly, this top row is tied to militarist. That means that xenophile or xenophobia has absolutely no impact on your ability to choose a government, positively or negatively. Now, that being said, let's run through the different government types and see what's available. All right, military republic holds an election every 5 years. Army upkeep is cheaper, ship upkeep is cheaper, and war happiness even higher. So this just lets you slog out wars even longer. As a note, all of the ones in this column have elections every 5 years. That is the nature of the democratic flavor, regardless of which one you pick. So then you have the theocratic republic. Ethics divergence -10, so people are more likely to stay conformed. +2 core sector planets. That's freaking huge. That's really freaking huge. In fact, that is categorically better than the direct democracy. I just noticed, because that's all direct democracy has going for it. Unless you want your people's ethics to wander a little bit, and there might be some merits to doing that. But that being said, direct democracy used to be +4 core sector planets, and they nerfed it. They might buff it back up to 3 maybe to set it aside from theocratic republic. But that's just speculation. +2 core sector planets. So you start out with 5 core sector planets. This will, before you have to start splintering off into sectors, this gives you an extra 2 before you have to do that. Moral democracy, just a blanket +10 happiness. And then indirect democracy gives you +1 leader skill level and -10 leader recruitment level. This actually is the choice that I am going to be doing for the Raccoon Collectorate, which is going to be the name of the empire, which I kind of jumped the gun here. But let's take a look at the bonuses for the others. Military Junta, which is the council flavor of the military one. Ship cost -10%, ship upgrade cost -25%, so cheaper fleets. Theocratic Oligarchy, also again with the lower ethics divergence and 15% leader recruitment cost. Scientific Directorate. Research alternatives. In my later series, I'll show you what the research alternatives do and why +1 to that is a really, really important one. And +1 leader capacity is just gravy on top of it. Peaceful Bureaucracy, extra leader pool size, extra leader capacity, and recruitment costs. Now, leader pool size is the really juicy one of this bunch. Because normally when you go to hire a leader, you only get to pick from 3 different people. This gives you a 4th. They might have better traits that you might want for whatever specific role you're hiring them for. And then down here, Plutocratic Oligarchy, 5% energy credits, 5% minerals. Just a real nice, healthy, flat bonus. Because every empire wants energy credits and every empire wants minerals. And then over here to the single ruler types here, we've got the Military Dictatorship, 20% higher naval capacity, so you can run a much larger fleet before upkeep starts eating you alive. And ship upkeep -5%, so once again you can keep a large army on hand without going bankrupt. Divine Mandate, global 50% higher slavery tolerance, and cheaper to move people around. So if you want to micromanage your planets and enslave parts of them, this is the way to go. Despotic Hegemony, 5% global research speed and 10% survey speed. That helps your science ships scout out the neighboring areas faster and obviously get yourself more techs. Enlightened Monarchy, -25% edict cost and 25% edict duration. That's important. Edicts are paid for with influence. Influence is not something you can easily get a lot of quickly. So reducing the costs to making these edicts is very important because edicts can be very, very powerful, as I'll demonstrate in my future episodes here. And then last but not least, we have the Despotic Empire, -15% building costs and +10% slave mineral and food outputs. Slaves naturally produce more minerals and foods because they don't get as much rest. This makes their slavery bonus even higher. I think the base is 10%, so this doubles the slavery bonus and thus further incentivize you to break out the whip. But no, we're going with the indirect democracy, so that is, as they say, is that. So for our empire, we are, again, Raccoon Collectorate. And then the name for that, we'll just call it the Raccoonies. Raccoonies. Them dang Raccoonies. And then we got our flag, all sorts of patterns to choose from. We got your blocky patterns here. Got our domination patterns here. Our human patterns here. Don't know why silly humans get their own patterns, but here they are. Ornate. And yeah, Paradox made a whole category just for their own logo. Pirate flavored ones, pointy ones, and round ones. Now the one I wanted is this one. And you can do primary and secondary colors here. We're going to go with that. And I think that's the one I go with. No, that's the one I go with. And then secondary colors, you can obviously make the second. Ew. No, I'm keeping it black. I don't want to clash that badly. All right, now we're in the home stretch here. So our starting weapons platform. This basically determines what weapons tech your ships start with and which one's more likely to be researched early on. And basically, as far as I can tell, projectile weapons are good against shields, energy weapons are good against armor, missile weapons are decent against both and have long range, but they're vulnerable to point defenses. Now that being said, just because you choose one of these does not make you locked into this choice permanently. You have the ability, and quite easily so, to research the other flavors of weaponry, and you can mix and match them. You can have some lasers and some guns and some missiles on the same ship if you want to make a sort of hybrid thing, but this just determines what you choose with. I'm going to go with the projectile weapons as an homage to Rocket Raccoon and his love for more DACA. We're going to go projectiles. Now, the FTL method. This one's a little bit more strategically significant. We've got warp travel. This essentially means that you can go from point A to point B straight as the crow flies. It is labeled new players because it is the most simple and straightforward. I want to go over there, I tell my ships to go over there, and they go over there. No fuss about it. The only downside is that it is the slowest of all three warp FTL methods. I mean, it'll still get them in there in time, but compared to the others, it can be a bit slower if you're just going down a direct route. Hyperspace travel is somewhat like it, and it is much, much faster. The thing with hyperspace travel is that there are predefined hyperspace lanes that make up and connect all the systems in the galaxy. And you have to travel down those lanes. Now, worlds are not always, logically interconnected, so to go from point A to point B might be a simple one jump affair, or it might be like a 5 jump affair as you navigate through the hyperspace lane network. And again, the network itself is randomly generated and you have no way to physically, control it or dictate its shape. You just kind of have to roll with the punches. So it makes sort of like a natural layout to the galaxy. And then we have wormhole travel for advanced players. I'll be honest, I've kind of fallen in love with this type. I wanted to dive into it and learn it because I wanted to see what made it so advanced. And I also figured, other people, other YouTubers and streamers who are going to be diving into this game right off the bat, they might because, well, we're all new players here, choose one of these other two. So you guys might want to see wormholes in action. So as not to disappoint, I will be doing that. Wormholes require that you have a wormhole station. And in order to jump to and from, you have to jump to a wormhole station or from a wormhole station. So your travel is a little bit more restricted, but you can build wormhole stations. So you kind of can dictate the network that your ships travel by, and it's really freaking quick. So that are the FTL types. We're going to go wormhole travel. And lastly, we have ship appearance. Again, purely cosmetic. We'll go with mammalian. So it gives you a grand overview of your race here. All the different things you chose. You can see what bonuses and penalties you got. And then here's the neat thing. You can save this race to your thing. I've already saved a copy of it. But here's the interesting. So so once saved here, obviously you can just choose it and quick select it as your chosen race for a starting game. Or if we were to say select a different race and play a game with that, as long as this Empire spawning allowed is checked off, the Raccoon Collectorate will appear as an AI-controlled empire somewhere in the game. So if you want to sort of seed your empire with other races, or if you're playing games and you want to maybe bump into races that you've created for past games, then that's something you can do. They added that a while ago, and Yeah. So that, my friends, is that. Let us get started with the game here. The galaxy size, you can go from 150 stars to a full 1,000 stars. And I've played a little bit this on the 1,000 stars. It does not lag at all. It is wonderful like that. Different shapes and sizes. I'm just going to go with the elliptical here. AI empires, let's crank it up to max. So you can have a total of 40 players, yourself plus 39 AI empires. Now, advanced AI starts. This is sort of like a difficulty slider. This might say the difficulty slider. It is, because this normal basically allows AI cheating. I don't like AI cheating, so I keep it on normal. This gives normally you'd start the game at the same exact tech level and power level and resource level and population level as all the other AIs, and thus everyone has on equal footing. This starts a certain number of AIs with advances. They start with more tech, they start with more planets, they start with more population, more resources. They are just naturally more powerful. So when you bump into them, you kind of have to tread lightly until you can catch up. I don't like this mainly because I started a game and then I bumped into an advanced warlike one and they just wiped the floor with me. But that might have just been bad luck with me. But here we're just going to set it to 0, so everybody in the game starts on equal footing. You can also restrict which FTL methods the entire universe uses. So, if you want a game where everyone is bound by the same travel rules, you can do that. Might make it a thing. But I'm going to use any because I want the diverse. And of course, good old-fashioned Iron Man mode. You only get one save file. You can't go back to old saves, and it auto-saves upon exit. So, if you want to unlock achievements, you have to play with Iron Man mode on. I'm going to keep it off for my particular game here, just because Iron Man mode with recording maybe not so much a good idea. All right, let's get started in our next episode. So this was all episode 0. If you click the link up there, this will take you to episode 1, where I actually venture forth into the universe as the Raccoon Collectorate. Come follow me and enjoy my exploration, and hopefully we can obtain some shinies and or lots of planets. So if you like this video and you want to see more like it, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave me a comment, good, bad, or indifferent. Your feedback is always welcome. So until next time, this has been Pinstar signing out.